Have you ever been called antisocial, weird, or broken simply because you prefer your own company? Have people made you feel like something is fundamentally wrong with you because you'd rather stay home than attend another meaningless gathering? If you've ever felt shame about needing solitude, if you've ever apologized for not being the life of the party, then what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you see yourself. Because there's something most people don't understand about those who prefer solitude. Something Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, discovered that society has been desperately trying to hide from you. The truth is so disturbing, so threatening to the way our culture operates, that they've convinced you that your need for alone time is a character flaw instead of what it actually is, a sign of psychological evolution. Today, I'm going to show you why people who choose solitude aren't running away from life. They're running towards something far more valuable. Why your preference for being alone isn't antisocial behavior, it's advanced social intelligence. And why the world fears people like you so much that they've created an entire mythology around why you need to be fixed. Jung understood something profound about human consciousness that most people still refuse to accept. He knew that the individuals who seek solitude aren't avoiding connection. They're seeking the most important connection of all, the one with their authentic self. While others are drowning in shallow interactions and meaningless noise, you're doing the deep work of individuation, becoming who you truly are beneath all the social conditioning. But here's what's truly disturbing. Our culture has declared war on solitude because people who are comfortable being alone are impossible to control. They don't need external validation to feel worthy. They don't consume endlessly to fill an inner void. They don't stay in toxic relationships because they're terrified of being alone. They represent everything our consumer-driven, distraction-based society fears most. Someone who is complete within themselves. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 4 psychological truths that separate people who need constant social stimulation from those who find power in solitude. You'll discover why your ability to be alone is actually a superpower that most people will never possess. And you'll finally realize that what they've been calling your weakness is actually your greatest strength. The first disturbing truth Jung discovered is that most people are terrified of silence because silence forces them to meet themselves. Think about it. When was the last time you saw someone just sitting quietly, without their phone, without music, without any external stimulation? Most people would rather experience physical pain than spend 15 minutes alone with their own thoughts. Jung called this phenomenon the shadow, the unconscious part of ourselves that contains everything we've rejected, repressed, or refused to acknowledge. For most people, being alone means being forced to confront their shadow, and that's absolutely terrifying. Because in the silence, all the lies they tell themselves start to crumble. All the ways they've betrayed their authentic self become impossible to ignore. But people who prefer solitude, they've made friends with their shadow. They're not afraid of the dark corners of their psyche because they've learned that within that darkness lies incredible wisdom. While others are running from themselves through constant busyness, constant noise, constant interaction, you're brave enough to sit in the discomfort of self-examination. This is why you feel drained after social gatherings while others feel energized. It's not that you don't like people, it's that you can sense the desperation behind their social masks. You can feel how much energy they're expending to avoid being alone with themselves. You're witnessing people who are literally running from their own consciousness, and it's exhausting to be around that kind of frantic avoidance. Jung understood that this ability to tolerate aloneness, to actually seek it out, indicates a level of psychological maturity that most people never reach. You're not antisocial, you're selectively social. You understand that quality trumps quantity in relationships, and you'd rather have deep, meaningful connections with a few people than superficial interactions with many. The second disturbing truth is that people who prefer solitude have access to a form of intelligence that extroverts can't comprehend. Jung called this introverted intuition, the ability to perceive patterns, connections, and truths that aren't visible on the surface. While extroverts are processing information from the external world, introverts are processing information from the internal world, the realm of ideas, possibilities, and deep understanding. This is why you often know things you can't explain, why you can predict how situations will unfold before they do, why you can read between the lines of what people are really saying beneath their words. Your brain is constantly making connections, seeing patterns, processing information at levels that require silence and solitude to access. But here's what's disturbing about this gift. Our culture has pathologized this natural way of being. They've convinced you that preferring books to parties makes you weird, that needing quiet time to process experiences makes you antisocial, that your depth of thought and feeling is somehow less valuable than someone's ability to make small talk at networking events. The truth is, some of humanity's greatest contributions have come from people who preferred solitude. Einstein, who said he was happiest when he was alone with his thoughts. Tesla, who avoided social gatherings to focus on his inventions. Virginia Woolf, who wrote about the necessity of solitude for creative work. These weren't broken people. They were accessing forms of consciousness that require stillness to reach. Your preference for being alone isn't a limitation, it's a specialization. While others are gathering surface-level information from social interactions, you're diving deep into the realm of ideas, creativity, and inner wisdom. You're not missing out on life. You're accessing parts of life that most people never discover because they're too busy avoiding the silence where these treasures are found. The third truth Jung uncovered is perhaps the most disturbing of all. People who are comfortable being alone represent an existential threat to a society built on consumption and control. Think about it. If you don't need constant entertainment, you're not profitable to the entertainment industry. If you don't need the latest gadgets to feel connected, you're not valuable to tech companies. If you don't need to buy things to fill an inner emptiness, you're useless to consumer culture. People who are comfortable in solitude have what Jung called an internal locus of control. Their sense of worth, their happiness, their peace comes from within. They can't be manipulated through FOMO, through social pressure, through advertising that promises external solutions to internal problems. They've found the secret that consumer culture doesn't want you to discover. You already have everything you need for happiness inside yourself. This is why society pushes the narrative that being alone is sad, that introverts need to be fixed, that you should force yourself to be more social. It's not because being alone is actually harmful to you. It's because people who are self-sufficient are harder to exploit. You can't sell solutions to people who aren't convinced they have problems. Jung observed that individuals who complete the process of individuation, who become fully themselves, often become more selective about how they spend their time and energy. They stop participating in activities that don't align with their authentic self. They stop maintaining relationships that drain rather than nourish them. They stop saying yes to invitations out of guilt or obligation. From the outside, this looks like becoming antisocial. But from the inside, it's actually becoming more social in a meaningful way. When you're not wasting energy on superficial connections, you have more to give to the relationships that truly matter. When you're not diluting your attention across dozens of shallow interactions, you can go deeper with the people who deserve your presence. The fourth and perhaps most liberating truth Jung discovered is that people who prefer solitude are actually ahead of the evolutionary curve. They're developing capacities that humanity desperately needs but doesn't yet understand how to value. In a world that's becoming increasingly noisy, chaotic, and overwhelming, the ability to find peace in stillness is a superpower. While others are becoming more anxious, more scattered, more addicted to external stimulation, you're developing the capacity for deep focus, for genuine self-reflection, for creative problem-solving that emerges from quiet contemplation. Jung believed that introverts were naturally drawn to what he called the transcendent function, the ability to bridge the conscious and unconscious mind, to access wisdom that exists beyond ordinary thinking. This happens most readily in solitude, in the space between sleep and waking, in the quiet moments when the rational mind stops trying to control everything. This is why your best ideas come to you when you're alone. Why you solve problems in the shower, during walks, in those peaceful moments before sleep. Your brain needs space, needs quiet, needs freedom from external input to make the connections that lead to breakthrough insights. While others are filling every moment with noise and distraction, you're creating the conditions for genuine innovation and understanding. But here's what makes this truly disturbing to conventional thinking. You're demonstrating that human fulfillment doesn't require constant connection with others. You're living proof that happiness can be found in simplicity, in stillness, in the rich inner world that everyone carries, but most people never explore. You're showing the world that you don't need their validation, their approval, their constant presence to feel complete. And that terrifies people who have built their entire identity around being needed by others, around being the center of attention, around never having to face themselves in the mirror of solitude. Now, here's where Jung's understanding becomes revolutionary. He realized that the people society calls loners, introverts, antisocial, are actually the ones most likely to achieve what he considered the ultimate goal of human development: individuation, becoming your authentic self rather than a copy of what others expect you to be. This process can't happen in a crowd. It can't happen when you're constantly responding to external demands, expectations, and stimulation. It requires periods of withdrawal, of deep self-reflection, of honest examination of who you are versus who you've been told you should be. It requires the courage to sit with uncomfortable truths about yourself and your life. While others are avoiding this work through constant busyness, constant socializing, constant consumption, you're doing the hard work of becoming real. You're peeling away the layers of conditioning, expectation, and social programming to discover who you actually are underneath all of that noise. This is why you feel different from most people, why you often feel like you're living in a different reality. You are. You're living from your authentic self, while most people are living from their social persona, the mask they wear to be acceptable to others. Jung understood that this persona, while necessary for functioning in society, becomes a prison when it's the only way you know how to exist. People who are comfortable in solitude have the opportunity to take off the mask, to rest from the performance of being who others need them to be, to remember who they actually are. But this gift comes with a cost. The cost of being misunderstood by a culture that values performance over authenticity, noise over wisdom, breadth over depth. The cost of being labeled as antisocial when you're actually socially evolved, as weird when you're actually wise, as broken when you're actually becoming whole. Yet despite this cost, you continue to choose solitude because you've discovered something that most people spend their entire lives searching for: the peace that comes from being completely comfortable in your own company. You've learned that the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of every other relationship in your life. When you're secure in your own solitude, you don't need others to complete you, validate you, or entertain you. You can choose relationships from wholeness rather than neediness. You can offer your authentic self rather than a performance designed to get approval. You can love without attachment, give without expectation, connect without losing yourself. This is what Jung meant when he said that the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Most people never claim this privilege because claiming it requires periods of solitude, of self-reflection, of honest self-examination that they're too frightened to undertake. But you've been brave enough to take this journey. You've been willing to sit with yourself, to befriend your own thoughts, to find entertainment in your own mind, to discover peace in your own presence. You've learned that solitude isn't the absence of connection, it's the deepest connection possible, the connection with your own soul. And here's the final disturbing truth that Jung discovered. The people who are most afraid of solitude are the ones most desperately in need of it. They're running from themselves so hard, filling their lives with so much noise and distraction that they've completely lost touch with their authentic self. They project their fear onto you, calling you antisocial because your comfort with solitude reminds them of everything they're avoiding. Your peace in your own company highlights their anxiety when alone. Your ability to think deeply threatens their commitment to surface-level thinking. Your authenticity exposes their performance, so they try to convince you that something is wrong with you, that you need to be more social, more outgoing, more like them. But what they're really asking you to do is abandon your greatest gift, your superpower, your evolutionary advantage, and join them in their flight from consciousness. Don't do it. Don't let a culture that fears depth convince you that your preference for solitude is a problem to be solved. Don't let people who can't tolerate their own company convince you that there's something wrong with enjoying yours. Don't let a society built on external validation make you doubt the wisdom you found in internal reflection. Your solitude isn't antisocial behavior, it's advanced social intelligence. Your preference for being alone isn't a character flaw, it's a character strength. Your comfort in your own company isn't weird, it's wise. And your ability to find fulfillment in stillness isn't disturbing, it's revolutionary. The world needs people like you. People who can think independently because they're not constantly influenced by group thinking. People who can make decisions from their authentic self rather than from social pressure. People who can offer genuine connection because they're not desperately seeking validation. People who can lead from wisdom rather than from the need to be liked. You are not broken. You are not antisocial. You are not weird. You are evolved. You are awake. You are doing the most important work a human being can do, becoming authentically yourself. And you're doing it in the only place where this work can be done, in the sacred space of your own solitude. The disturbing truth isn't that you prefer to be alone. The disturbing truth is that most people are so disconnected from themselves that they can't understand why anyone would choose the company of their own authentic self over the noise of social performance. But you understand. You've discovered the secret that Jung spent his entire career trying to teach. That the journey inward is the only journey that leads to real freedom, real peace, real authenticity. And that journey can only be taken alone. If this resonates with you, if you recognize yourself as someone who has found wisdom in solitude, then you're part of a rare group of people who are living ahead of their time. You're demonstrating a way of being that humanity is slowly evolving toward. The ability to find fulfillment from within rather than constantly seeking it from without. This is just the beginning of understanding your true nature and your place in a world that doesn't yet comprehend the gift you represent. Subscribe to continue exploring the psychological truths that will help you embrace your authentic self and understand why your preference for solitude isn't a limitation, it's liberation.